Mr. Jeff Domenick, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you doing, Dom?
Uh, Good. I think we're going to confuse people in today's episode because my first name's Dominic and your last name's Dominic.
That's right. Spelled differently.
I
Uh,
know.
my great grandfather was Dominic, and that's a story for a different podcast on a
Is
different
that
day.
ever? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
So Italian, I take it.
sure.
Yeah, great.
Yep.
From the north, because for those of you who can't see this, this is a YouTube video as well, and Jeff's got red hair, like fiery red. We always know those are northerners. Hey, great to have you with us. I'm excited to have you here today too, because what you and I are going to talk about and what your sweet spot in the world is actually very exciting for a lot of people in the trades.
That's great.
We'll get to that in a sec. Let me ask you this, Jeff Dominic, who the heck are you? And how is it you come to be speaking to all these contractors all over the world?
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you asking, Dominic, and thanks for having me on the podcast. I certainly enjoy just sharing what we're doing, and if somebody can get a little bit smarter or avoid a mistake that we've made, certainly there's a benefit to that. But long and short of it, I've been a landscape industry guy my whole life.
Mm.
Started way back in the 80s mowing grass in the Molly Pitcher Cemetery for $3.85 an hour, and
Yeah.
somehow just fell in love with the landscape industry. Um, got a degree in landscape architecture from West Virginia University. When I graduated, I kind of started in the land development world, um, and then did some work with the Brickman Group, which is now
Oh,
part of
yeah.
Brightview.
Yeah.
Um, High end residential design build, and then I kind of towards the as I was approaching my 30s, I started working with NDS Drainage Products, which is a manufacturer of drainage and irrigation products. And
Mm.
I always like to say that's where I grew up. It was a great company. It was PE backed. They
PE,
were
private
very
equity, right?
private
It was a
equity.
private equity company that bought them and was running it. Yeah.
Yeah, and they they were very acquisitive. They acquired like companies that sold into similar distribution, and they presented a terrific value proposition for the smaller independent distributor. Um, and they had a great leadership team, and they for the first time in my career, there were folks kind of
Uh,
investing in making me better.
that's why
And
you said you grew up there. Like it sounds like
I
you
did.
learned a lot there or during
Learned
your
a lot.
time there and with them.
Met a lot of great people, worked with a lot of great people. Some of them I actually have on my team today or have had on my team in other organizations.
Yeah.
Some of them are independent contractors that do some marketing and such for us. It was just a really great company with a great culture during a very difficult economic time. Right, I started in 2007, and we all thought the world
Perfect timing.
was going to be great, and then the lights kind of went out in 2008, and believe it or not, it was probably the best opportunity for me. I
Mm.
think I might have been the cheapest guy doing what I was doing, so I hung on to my job, and they gave me a bunch of responsibility that I had no qualifications to really accept.
Yeah. Don't tell anybody at the time. You're
That's
just,
right. That's
don't,
right.
every time somebody walks by your door, you like stiffen up a little bit. Like,
That's right.
yeah.
That's right. But I started out and progressively promoted up through there. Ended up running the Eastern U.S., Eastern Canada, and then in 2000, late 2014, early 2015, John Deere Landscapes had recently been acquired by Clayton Dublier and Rice, which was a private equity group.
Mm.
They acquired 60%. John Deere hung on to 40%. And I spent 7 years with them. My first 2 years was in their corporate office in Roswell, running their landscape supply and hardscape business. And then they asked me to go out west, where I had responsibility for Western Canada,
So
Oregon, Washington.
you've seen lots of different landscaping applications, even from the materials side, like the substrates are totally different in those environments. And then the, water usage and containment is all different. And
It is, and that's site one is really where I learned and understood got to understand the acquisition process.
mm,
I was fortunate enough to be a part of acquiring 13 companies in what we call the Mountain West business. Um, and these are great companies with great entrepreneurs. They were anywhere from $1 million of EBITDA, up to five or six, and family run companies.
Yeah.
Some guys didn't even have a high school education, but were some of the most amazing entrepreneurs I had ever had the opportunity of working with.
You
So
are talking to them on this show. That's
yeah,
exactly who listens to this show. It's guys that have started on their own, and gals who've started on their own and just sort of found themselves running a business, probably in a lot of cases never even intended to.
yeah, that's right. And I just got really jazzed up working with these folks, learning their business. A lot of times the second or third generation was in the business. And
Mm.
it was like, it's hard for me to understand. It's like, why are you selling when you've got this second generation? And the second generation is like, I want to build and work for a big company. I don't want to go through, some of the trials and
What I
tribulations that,
saw my parents go through, and
yeah,
there was a lot of years we ate mac and cheese a lot.
yeah,
And
yeah, without
why?
the milk, right?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
so,
So that
yeah,
actually leads us to today, because you're here because and you're at KeyServ Co, right?
that's correct.
And we're going to talk about, I want to sell my contracting business, but how? So anybody out there listening right now who has even the faintest inkling of maybe one day you want to sell, Jeff's got some insights. So if you look at the whole span of your career, how many acquisitions have you been part of, either getting acquired or acquiring others?
Getting acquired, 25.
That's
Uh,
it. That's it. That's
yeah,
the only experience you bring to bear in this conversation.
that's it. Yeah, so 20, we've done 20. I've been part of 25 deals. I did 13 deals at Site One. Um, we're getting ready to close our eighth deal at KeyServ. We did two deals while I was at NDS, and then I was acquired while we were at
That's what I
NDS.
was going to say. Yeah, there was probably some acquisitions that you were a part of.
Yeah, and then I worked for Del Webb, which was an active adult builder, as my first career, and they were acquired by Pulte Homes in 2002 ish
Still
timeframe.
Webb in Nevada.
They were headquartered in Phoenix, but I
Yeah,
believe they run all their operations out of Michigan, where I think
yeah.
Pulte is headquartered
I
now.
just
So
I have this weird thing for signs, and I know I've seen their sign.
they have a big they have big, their original neighborhoods were in Phoenix and the desert Southwest, so like Sun City Grand and
Yeah.
those.
So there, and that's the problem. I just see the desert in the background behind the sign. I don't know if it was Nevada or Arizona,
Yeah,
somewhere with that kind of background. It's okay, good.
yeah,
Um, so you've seen a lot of acquisitions. You've seen them go right. You've seen them go wrong. I imagine over 25 deals, you've seen things
yeah.
go. So let's go back and reestablish who we've got here as an audience. It's all forward-facing contractors. They've started the business themselves. They might be second generation, couple of third gen. That's very rare in North America still. And some of them don't even have the intention of selling, but they think at some point something's going to change in their business. Number one, they're having more birthdays than ever before. They're
Mhm.
getting old. Or maybe their heir apparent, their son, their daughter, their niece, their nephew doesn't want to take over. Or that manager they were going to put in place is pretty good, but not going to be able to maximize the business. Does that sound like a good scope of?
Yeah, it is. I mean, I think whatever your plans are, I mean, there's a few people that'll start a business and say, "Hey, my plan is to sell this," and that's
Mm,
fine. I think that you should always, run your business as if you're going to sell it, and because it's
mm,
going to bring a lot of really, really good habits, in the business, that
right.
whether you want to sell it or not, if you need to go to the bank and borrow money, or you have a partner that you want to buy out, or you have an employee that wants to buy in, you know, treating the business like a business versus, a lifestyle
Yeah.
is is really important. And that's really hard for owner operators because, you don't have this big back office team, to do that. So, yeah, I mean, that regardless of what
Run.
your intent is, run it as if you're going to sell it. Now, what does
Yeah.
that mean? I think is the $1 million question.
Sure. Yeah, we talk about it here all the time. Is the people who listen to the show have gotten to that level in their business where they sort of stand up, stretch their back, and look around. They're like, you know what? I'm running a company here. And what I like to remind people is that the reason I bring guests like you on the show is I want to show people how to be a business person that just happens to run a trades business, whether it's a cabinet shop or a roofing company or a landscaping company or landscape design, like it doesn't matter. They just realize I'm a business person. I just happen to run this masonry company.
That's
It's
right.
a different mentality, like the mentality that you brought to bear. I hope a lot of people heard this. Run the business as if you're going to sell it one day, even if you're not going to, because it changes all of your decision making.
It really does. I mean, and I think the second component of that, to sell a business, um, you can't be the business, right? Um, you know, when we look at a business,
Mm,
we want to understand if the owner gets hit by a bus or decides they don't want to continue, with us long term, or whatever it is. What is who is the number two? Who really does drive, the business? And
right.
I think a lot of owners are afraid to relinquish that authority, um, or afraid to pay somebody, what you would have to pay them to do that. But I promise you, I think not only will you have a better work-life balance, but you'll probably make more money if you begin to think about surrounding yourself with a leadership team and
Yeah.
people that can um, you know really help drive the value of your business up.
Yeah. The thing that we like to remind people when we do coaching is not so much about selling your business, but is your business buyable? Like
Yeah.
it's really the same thing that you've just said there, but do you have a management team in place? Are you running the business on good data, good information? Are you making decisions based on logic, not, emotion? And that just, have you built a business that's buyable? You can say no to everybody that comes by. No, not for sale, but you're still buyable. And that
That's
has a
right.
lot of benefits. You're getting cash, you're getting time, you're the dream. It's what we all want, right?
Yeah, and it's understanding the things that drive the value in your business, right?
Mm,
So I
what
always
are
say,
those?
one, it's your people. Um, a lot of folks like to run lean. They don't have any employees. Everybody's 1099. It's really not a business at that point. You may be
Mm,
filing taxes like a business. You may be getting, um, some advantages that businesses have, but you're really not a business. You don't have much to sell in
right.
that circumstance. So, you know, never once have I heard when I ask the question to a potential seller is, what's your favorite part of the business? Never have I heard finance, HR, marketing. Those are never the things
I
that,
like doing the books.
yeah,
Yeah.
no, they like to be landscapers, or they like to be carpenters, or they like to sell. I mean, that's, a lot of the entrepreneurs that
Mm,
join us, they're great salespeople. They interact well with the customer, but do you have somebody else that does it almost as well as you? I don't know if you'll ever
right.
find somebody that does it as well as you, but
Yeah.
will you find somebody that does it almost as well as you, that can create the same type of experience for
Yeah.
your customers that you're able to create?
Well, and I guess to your point, have I built the systems so that it's not based on me or my personality or my strengths? Because I'm finite. I'm going to be gone at some point. But do
Yeah.
I have systems where I can put a capable person, any capable person in there, and they can run it capably? I'm not looking for a very unique, unicorn who's going to run it. It's got to be run by anybody who's a capable manager or administrator.
Yeah. And, I always, and we recently did this. I like to see rigor in a business. And what I mean by rigor,
Hmm.
that,
Uh-huh.
you know, there's a cadence in terms of how you do things,
Right.
that you're responding to the needs of the business, not to what the business needs of you at that moment. And I think it's
Nice.
really important to have, some sort of an infrastructure around that. So
Hmm.
at KeyServ, we recently we started the process last June, and we implemented EOS, the Entrepreneurial Operating System.
You can see that. There you go. From traction.
Yep, there you
That's
go. Tractions in the back. Yep.
I love it. I'm glad you did that. It's such a powerful system. We use that too.
Yeah, I mean, it really simplifies, what's
The
happening
rhythms of
in
business.
business.
Yeah.
But more importantly, you're solving the problems where the problem happens versus trying to solve the problem in a conference room or a boardroom where, you're using your experience and you're creating hypotheticals, but you really don't know, if your solution is going to be the right one. So, um, that's really important. And, we've been at it for 28 months now at KeyServ. We closed our first round of deals December 31st, 2022,
Nice.
or excuse me, December 31st, 2021. And we had a full year of operation in 2022. And one of the things we learned, coming out of 2022 is, we had done 4 deals and we had 4 separate companies,
Mm-hmm.
and we were all talking a different language, right? I was talking, the language that I like to talk. They were talking the language that they like to talk, and so we had to create a common language or common ground,
Yeah.
and then begin developing, our processes in terms of how we do things.
And let me just bring that to people at a more because I understand what you mean. I deal with it every day, but imagine a football team where you got the defensive specialty teams, the offensive specialty teams, and they're all talking a different language. They're
Doesn't work.
just that team's not going to win. You have to have a language that the whole team understands, that the special teams understand. And even if somebody from the offensive specialty team came in and listened in on the defense, they'd still know what's going on. And you're right. In a lot of businesses, we've got people with the wrong definitions. Sorry,
Yeah.
let me back up, Jeff. We're talking about the same thing, but we're using different words,
That's right.
right?
Yeah, and to add on to that, not only are you speaking the same language, you're on the same schedule. And so I think and I've always done this, and it's been a little bit different in every organization, but you always have one day a week and one scheduled time where everybody pulls up that needs to be on there and gets on the same page. And
Do you mean a meeting?
a
Because we hate,
meeting.
oh my
Yes.
gosh, meetings. Now, I'm joking here, but
Yep.
this is what I hear. Dom, we don't need more meetings. Tell me, would you ever get rid of meetings now that you're effective meetings, now that you're having effective meetings?
Well, I would never get rid of our level 10 meeting, which is our Monday, our once a week. Level
Right.
10 is, part of the EOS process.
Yeah.
It's an hour and a half long. It's got a very fixed agenda.
Love
The
it.
majority of the meeting is dedicated to solving issues in the business. Anything, and anything can be an issue, right? Um, but I mean, you can't run a business without that weekly sync.
Yeah. You just need it.
Um,
I mean, you can run a business like that, but all you're doing is reproducing chaos. And that's where we get frustration, right?
that's
Is
right.
just we're just magnifying chaos, more chaos, more chaos. And I think you said there's rigor in a business because
That's right.
there's an infrastructure. It's I call it the rhythms of business. There's
Yeah.
like let's use your calendar. Every Monday we have this meeting. Every Wednesday we have this check-in. Every Thursday we get this report. That might seem limiting to some people, but that there's freedom in there that gives you the ability to grow because with certainty the business is running the way it's running.
And those meetings go down into the organization. So the our meeting, our leadership meeting, it's the last meeting that happens on Monday. So all any issues that don't get solved that need the next level of input, it kind of cascades up, and then at the end of Monday, we solve the issues that are getting in the way of the field and their operating rhythm, to use
Oh,
your
okay.
terminology.
Yeah.
And then any messages that we need to cascade down to the broader organization, we try to do that by the end of the day, Monday or first thing on Tuesday. We don't, if there's an issue in the business, we don't want them to wait 7 days or 10 days because that's costing us, time, energy, and money. We want them to have good, clear direction
On Monday.
on Monday.
At the beginning of the week. Yeah. That's a great
And
idea.
we're not really setting the direction. Our goal is to qualify what they want to do. And so it's usually if somebody calls me and says, hey, I got this issue. I'm going to say, geez, that's a tough one. What do you think we should do? And they've got the answer. And my job is to shoot some holes into it, maybe draw some from some of my experience. And
Yeah.
then at the end, it's like, but look, you're closest to it. So what I want you to do is take this information and go make a good decision. So they're
Mm.
empowered to make those decisions. As soon as I become the bottleneck, or somebody, or VP of operations becomes the bottleneck, then nothing's happening in the field. Nothing makes me happier than when I realize that something has happened that's been really, really great, and I knew nothing about it.
It didn't
I had
touch
no
it.
input on it, didn't touch it, and all of a
Yeah.
sudden we got this great success story.
Beautiful, beautiful, simple solution.
It's
Hey,
almost like,
without
geez, it works.
it, and it does work. And by the way, you're the management track you took there. I wonder if people noticed that, as you did not insert yourself into the actions, and you kept saying, "Well, you're closest to it. What do you think we should do?" And go make a good decision, and I'll help you if I need to later. Um, Without giving away any confidences, can you give us an example of something? And I'm talking about at a company level, like an operational level, because people listening to the show are still the owner who's operating that, let's say, landscape company. So can you give me an example of something that might float up in those meetings?
Yeah, so one of the things that we're working on, we want to make sure that I like to use the term, coin operated employees. And you remember the old days where you kept putting quarters in a video game, you could play
Just to
forever,
keep
but if you
playing.
run out of quarters, you stop playing.
Yeah.
Well, our theory is that we can motivate our team members by making sure that their compensation is aligned with their success. And compensation programs are really tough to do, right? There's a lot of variability. Oftentimes, what you want to measure to pay them on might be tough to measure. And so, coming up with a good compensation plan that is a win for the associate and a win for KeyServ
Right.
is a lot of work. And based on your role in the organization, you're typically going to see a compensation plan, different than another role because there's different components. So as we're going through this process, I really want this bottoms up plan by understanding where we think the opportunities for improvement are. So it's really easy for me to say is, well, hey, our budgeted hours are 10. If you do it in 8, I'll pay you more money. Well, but can we do it in 8 and still maintain the quality that we want to maintain?
Right.
Or are we really trying to do it in 8? Or are we just trying to figure out, we're going to give 10 hours for this, but we want to do more work in a day. So maybe it's just a matter of like rerouting our crews and, maybe getting better density, or maybe it's a matter of
Scheduling or something.
maybe it could just be selling, saying, hey, this is a new neighborhood and it really takes away from our efficiency because we have to drive all the way over here. It's like, all right, well, let's go sell some more stuff in that neighborhood.
That sounds
right?
like a San Francisco problem, by the way.
Yeah.
Like a Silicon Valley problem. We're not going
Yeah.
there. I could see it from here, but we're not getting there for 2 hours.
Yeah. So, in that instance, we've really built these from the bottoms up. And so we're trying to get feedback from the people that it really impacts and say, if you were paying yourself, extra money, because we really treat it as extra money, what do you think you could, achieve, and how would you achieve it, and how can we measure it? And we get some great ideas.
You know what I'm appreciating, and I hope I'm going to draw light on this, so I hope other people see it, is you actually ask a lot of questions. You're not giving a lot of answers. Yeah.
I don't have any.
Isn't it funny? I think it comes with the gray hair, Jeff. I'm the same. I'm like, you're getting in this meeting with me thinking I have the answers. I don't. I have some questions. I have many questions. I don't have all the answers. But the other thing that you said that was very interesting, and I hope everybody takes this away, is talk to the person at the coal face. Talk to the person in the field. Or, when we talk about lean manufacturing, it's the Gemba walk. Go to where the work is being done, because the solution, the elegant solution, the simple solution will probably come from the face of where the work is happening.
Yeah. There's that one story, and I don't know if it's a fable or what, but there was this company that every like 10th box was coming off the assembly line empty, and the auto stacker couldn't stack it. So it was screwing up the whole process. So they hired this consultant. They paid him a lot of money to come in, and he realized that on the third shift there were no empty boxes. And so he came in on the third shift to watch what was going on, and he went to the operator of the line and said, "Hey, we've got this problem, and it doesn't happen on your shift. What's the difference?" And he said, "Well," he goes, "I'm a big guy, and I get really hot, and I've got this fan running behind me. And when that fan runs and the empty box comes by, it blows it off the assembly line." So, that's talking about going to where the work is being done, right?
It's so simple. So then, there's a jet of air, which is dead cheap to put in place. And now they've identified the waste, which is an empty box. And it's a great story.
And then you can go solve, why is there an empty box? But they weren't trying to solve, why is there an empty box? They were trying to solve, hey, it's screwing up our pallet stacking. So, all right, we solved this problem. We'll put a fan in place. That's $19.99.
Right. It's cost you nothing, literally nothing.
Yeah.
That's an interesting point. How you guys are in the business of acquiring, or at least in your department, acquiring other companies, operating companies. Mm-hmm. How do you guys view bottlenecks in a business? If that company has a bottleneck, is it a deal breaker or is it just part of business?
Well, we first measure companies on the people. So when we sit down and we talk with the seller, is this somebody that you want to do business with? I mean, because an acquisition or a merger, I mean, you really got to think about it like a marriage. And so is this somebody that you want to go to battle with? Is this somebody that you think you'll enjoy working with? And so that's number one.
Yeah.
Number two, understanding what they want to do post-transaction. So in the KeyServ model, we do not take your keys and send you to the beach. We actually want the sellers to stay on and continue operating the business. Our goal is to take those things off their plate that either they don't do well or they don't want to do any longer, right, and bring those in the center. And it's finance, HR, all
I was going to say bookkeeping, marketing, maybe the sales or whatever. There's something.
And then we look at the profitability of the business. And so we really like well-run, profitable businesses. We're not in the business of buying fixer-uppers. But every business we buy, there's opportunities, right? It could be line of business expansion. Maybe they're doing lawn maintenance and turf care and construction, but they don't do irrigation service. Well, there's an opportunity. So there's all these opportunities. When we get in and we start looking at the business, we've got good software and technology that we deploy. So we're able to show sellers things about their business that otherwise would be very difficult for them to uncover.
Because you see a lot of businesses. Yeah.
Yeah. And every business has a lot of the same problems, right? It could be, my guys are spending too much time at the gas station in the morning. Okay, well, let's put fuel on site. I mean, you will save so much money by putting fuel on your property. That's one way. The other way is actually one of our crews, one of the guys, his wife actually packs lunches and sells them to crew members in the morning, which keeps them out of the gas stations.
And stops them doing that extra drive.
Yeah, there's a lot of different ways. But to your point, how do you deal with bottlenecks? Well, we try not to be the bottleneck. And so by pushing the problem back to the seller, they usually have the answer. I mean, these are entrepreneurs who have survived a lot and, very creatively solved problems. And so we typically try to defer to them if it's an operational issue. Like, what would you do in your former life? I think the other benefit is we now have 7 sellers in our company.
I was going to say you can trade notes. Here's what we did. Yeah.
So getting them together, we get together as a group at least once a quarter.
Okay.
And, we spend 8 hours in a conference room. I mean, that's just kind of part of it. But the 4 hours that we spend at dinner and having a cold beer, that is 3 times as productive as the time we spent.
How many times have you gone to a conference and, the lineup was so-so and maybe even I was a speaker and right? But then you're waiting for coffee in the morning at breakfast and I strike up a conversation with you and that 5 minutes is the most valuable takeaway from the entire conference. It's not scripted. We weren't meant to stand next to each other, staring at the scrambled egg. None of that. And yet that was the most valuable takeaway from the whole thing. And so you have it naturally because you have all these other business units coming together. I want to go back to my bottlenecks question.
Mhm.
One of the things that I've had to learn about, and I mean, this sounds weird to some people, but I have had to learn business and I'm still learning. I don't know everything. I barely know anything now that I'm older. I think that's part of getting older is I go seek bottlenecks. Like I actively hunt to destroy bottlenecks. And then I know that the next bottleneck is coming. Whereas I find a lot of people who are stalled in their growth avoid the bottlenecks.
Yeah, I mean, I think it goes back to our core values as a company,
Mm.
and that's actually part of it. I mean, we have four core values. We take the harder right. We enjoy what we do. We have an impact, and we solve problems. And that
Oh, there you
solving
go, right there.
and
Yeah.
that solving problems, it's we go to the root cause. So we don't try to triage the problem. We try to understand what's causing the infection or bottleneck and
Mm.
solve the problem at the lowest common denominator. And in each of those four core values has 5 or 6 bullets that explain what we mean by that.
So you've got
Uh,
sub points to it to bring it to
that's right.
life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't know if my team, likes it or not, but every time we get together for that quarterly meeting, I spend 30 minutes going over the core values and reminding them, what we do, why we do it, how we do it. And
Yeah.
I hope that they're creating as much pain for their teams 30 minutes every quarter and reminding them, because it's so easy to forget, why we get up every morning and
And
why we're doing this. And so I think reminding them that,
our
this is why
core
we do
values are
this,
important.
and this is our secret sauce. And it's going to be hard for another company to replicate the things that we do. A, because they don't have our people, and two, they may not be as aligned
Yeah.
on objectives as we are.
I think you brought up an interesting point here that rolls back to one of your first things is, we look at the people in the business and whether we want to be partners with them and whether their team is the kind of team we want to acquire. But it's so business coachy, so incredibly business coachy to say, let's look at our values. What's our culture? When
Yeah.
I've got somebody running a business who's like, hey, Dom, we cut big pieces into little pieces and then we reassemble them into pretty pieces. That's
Mm-hmm.
what we do. And you
Mm-hmm.
want to talk to me about my values and my culture? And I respond, yep. Because
Yeah.
it's the glue that holds everything else together. It's the glue that holds together your problems with accounts receivable or the fact that guys aren't showing up on time or that they're not committed at work or your vendors aren't giving you the products you need. It's the culture in your business or my business and the values that I have in my company that help that come to life.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I mean, look at Enron. They're on the wall in their lobby. I don't know if you remember Enron,
no,
right?
let's, I try not to quote
Communication,
them a lot.
respect, integrity, uh, honesty, and excellence, right?
Gone.
So the key is we hire, we fire, we promote, we coach to our core values, because if you don't have that as part of your business, then somebody's going to go rogue, and you're not going to be able to
Mm.
accomplish the goals you want to accomplish, because you're not talking in the same language. You're speaking in a different language, and the expectations that you have of them. When we say take the harder right, that means a lot of things. Like, that means we're always
Take
safe.
take to
Sometimes
heart.
that go ahead.
Sorry, I was going to ask you to repeat your values anyways, but was it take the harder right?
Take the harder right.
Huh.
Yeah. And I mean, that's a mouthful, but you know, it means that oftentimes it's easier to take a shortcut. Um, but it may not be the safest way. It may not be the best interest of our business. It may not be in the best interest of our customer. It may
Mm.
not be in the best interest of our vendor. And so, regardless of what we're trying to accomplish, we always do it the right way.
Mm.
So, if we make a mistake on a customer's property, you'll never see us back away or kind of debate whether we're responsible for it or not.
Just
Like,
fix it.
we made a mistake. It's just going to cost us long term way less money. just to go in and fix it. And I think, our customers see that. And so we have a lot more credibility and trust. And now they view us as, their partner. I mean, think about it. There's a lot of different kind of trades probably listening to this, but as a landscape contractor, we show up on our customer's property 42 times a year, 44 in Florida, right? Of
course.
So that is a relationship. I mean, maybe a cleaning person comes every other week to your house. There's very few people that come every week.
Right.
But that is, think about that. We are a trusted advisor to our customer. And so for us, making sure that they know that we're always going to do the right thing. We break stuff, we run into fences, look, we make mistakes. We're human. The work we do is messy, but it's how we own that, I think, is important. So that's like number one for us.
Yeah, I love it. And you brought it to life so easily there. Clearly you do this a lot with your team.
Yeah. At least once a quarter.
I like at least once a quarter. I like the fact that there's 4. And so do you mind repeating them again for people listening? Sure. Because a lot of people don't deal with their values, their culture at all. So let's have a look at an operating company that's really doing it. That's you guys. What are the 4 core values again?
We take the harder right.
Okay.
We enjoy what we do. We have an impact, and we solve problems.
I love it. And nowhere in there does it say we are the best landscape, anything, XYZ.
No.
Yeah. That's so interesting. I've never heard that before. We take the harder right. We enjoy what we do. That's fantastic. We have an impact and we solve problems. So for everybody listening, when we were talking about having values in your business, this is easy to ignore Jeff and I talking about, but it's those that take heed, like those that say, okay, yeah, we should put some values in place. Just start down that path. Start to think about what you stand for and what you don't. And I've got tools that I can share with people on that too. But as I like to say, if you stand for nothing, you'll fall for anything. But these are 4 simple rules I think anybody could probably look back at and go, oh, what do I do here? The weed whacker broke their picket fence. I'll just hide it. No, I got to take the harder right. Yeah. And so you go report to your crew chief or your foreman or your lead, hey, I broke the picket fence. Right?
Yeah. And in our culture, if you tell us you broke something, okay, right? If you don't tell us you broke it, I think that's a larger problem because it doesn't subscribe to our core values. I mean, we're going to break stuff. It's actually a line in our DL. We hit more fence posts with lawnmowers than I think the average contractor does. But it's
do you guys do any snow removal in any of your markets?
We have some equipment in the Carolinas, but we probably only do it every 2 or 3 years. But I do remember as a young man moving snow, and we broke a lot of stuff.
Yeah, you tear up. Oh my God, what are they called now? Speed bumps.
Oh yeah.
You break curbs.
Yeah.
There's a landscape, so an HOA maintenance company that we've done lots of work with, and they went back to fix, the little 4-sided open box that holds the dumpster. Well, it's so tight in these townhouse complexes that the truck keeps breaking it. It's always backing into it when it's getting out there. And they're like, that's our biggest recurring revenue item in an HOA. Yeah. Is we just keep going back and fixing that thing because they keep the garbage truck keeps breaking it. And at no point does the garbage company go, hey, we broke it, we'll fix it. Yeah. That's out of the question. But the HOA has to go and fix it. So just different things in different markets.
That's right.
Jeff, we've had a really fantastic conversation, and I know you're busy because how many you could say the number, but you might not say the names. What's your acquisition target number for this year?
Well, I'll probably start with revenue. We think we're going to acquire 30 to 40 million in revenue this year. We're going to be about 40 million in revenue this year. We've spent the last 2.5 years really getting our platform ready to begin, kind of outpaced growth. And so we've got a very sizable pipeline. We're highly focused in the Southeastern United States, or I'd say wholly focused in the Southeastern United States. We're in Florida, North Carolina, South Carolina, and Alabama. we'd like to be in Georgia. We like Tennessee. Um, you know,
Everybody in Georgia and Tennessee, listen carefully here. You got some
yeah,
people licking their chops. How would I find this Jeff Domenick guy if I needed to find him?
yeah, no, it's a good question. Well, you can get on our website, KeyServCo, KeyServCo.com. And there's a lot of information out there. You can see all the companies that are currently a part of our family of companies. My email address is jeff@KeyServCo.com. You can get us on LinkedIn. We're on Facebook. We're kind of all over, but I'm pretty good. I mean, if somebody reaches out, I'm certainly gonna, respond if I can and help share and help you avoid some mistakes, or better yet, maybe learn from you.
Mm, yep.
Wide open to do that.
What kind of, just so people out there listening, somebody that does ponds or water catchment or dry ponds might think, oh, they don't want to talk to me. What kind of companies do you typically look for? Because I guarantee you somebody in that very specialty trade is listening.
Yeah. So we like, and I say we, private equity in general places the most value on recurring services.
Thank you
So,
for saying that. Recurring revenue, maintenance contracts, service contracts. Absolutely. It's
so
predictable.
we look at recurring revenue. We look at landscape maintenance,
Mm,
irrigation services, turf care services, bed maintenance, mulching, pruning, general enhancements. Our goal is for that to be, 65, 70% of our revenue. We're not quite
mm,
there yet, but we think we'll get there soon. Um, and then, we also have, landscape design, build, construction. One of our strategies is to really, we're about 70% residential, and we like that mix. So we do service commercial,
right.
but we want to be the general contractor of your landscape services. We don't want our customer to have a guy that cuts their grass and a
And
girl
then just
that
a weed guy
manages
in there.
turf care, and
Yeah.
we're one stop shop. It really makes us sticky. We're very hard to replace in that sense, because there's not a lot of companies that do everything. Um, if I could give anyone advice, whatever your business is today, try to think about what kind of recurring services you can add to your business. Number one, it's great with cash flow, right?
Yeah.
Once you do that, you're gonna get really excited about it. But number two, it really does increase the value of your
Oh,
organization.
it's incredible. That's the reason insurance companies get so big. The reason Starbucks gets so big. Let's use Starbucks because people don't think about this, is because now we've got this Starbucks app and we preload it with $20 or $50. We are now a pre-qualified repeat purchase. And
That's
they can do their financial projections saying Dominic comes to Starbucks this many times or whatever coffee place. Insurance companies get so big because we all pay them $3 a month or $300 a month for the rest of our lives. And they can predict that cash flow. So when they get sold or they go for financing, they get massive multiples because there's certainty. There's no
Mhm.
drama, there's low risk.
Yeah. A quick story. Years ago, I lived in Athens, Georgia, and my wife wanted black and white checkered tile floors. We were in a mid-century modern
Mm,
ranch, and it was really hard to find solid white, solid black tiles. And we ended up putting in a VCT tile, like the stuff you see in hospitals. Solid
right.
black, solid white.
Yeah.
We checkered it. It looks like, all those kitchens and mansions from, the 80s. And when you would put a shine on that floor, man, it looked really great. But you had to put a shine on that thing every 8 weeks. And
Oh, that often.
it took special equipment. And
Mm,
so I found this guy who came out to my house. He said, yeah, we can come in every 8 weeks. This is what it's going to cost you to do this. And I said, that's great. Sign it up because I'm sick of doing this myself. And he said, we can also seal your granite countertops twice a year. We can also recaulk your bathroom tubs, once a year. And he's
yeah.
going through, he said, we have a
And we
government
do
lease
dryer
program.
vent cleaning and yeah.
Yeah. And next thing you know, I mean, this guy is, sucking, I don't know, probably $200 a month out of for stuff that needs to be done
But
that
I can't do
otherwise
it. Yeah.
I would have had to either do it myself or hire
Ah,
somebody else. And this guy, he's very successful now, and he's really, grown his home services business. But he was just, he was looking at it and saying, I'm here anyway. I'm coming to your house every 8 weeks. So why can't twice a year I reseal your countertops and once a year to regrout your tub? So
yeah, I'm so glad you said that. The reality is, look, you're a busy executive. I'm a busy business coach. We have busy business owners listening. We're no different than somebody else who's a busy executive who's facing a 2 hour drive, maybe one way to work, but let's just say 2 hours, an hour there, an hour back. Do you think they have time to reseal the grout in their shower when they finally have a day off? No. Or do their lawn. And I understand doing the lawn, there's something zen about it. I love doing my lawn, and I hate it at the same time because I've got other stuff to do, which is get my son to this practice, get my daughter to that practice, hang out with my wife, which I promised to do when I married her. The last thing I want to do is mow the lawn, even though I like mowing the lawn. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And I'm no different than my neighbor.
And I'm not somebody to recommend a bunch of books, but a game-changing book I read was Who Not How. So, the whole premise of the book is, who are you going to get to do this versus how are you going to do it?
Yeah.
And it really changed my perspective in my personal life. But more importantly, it changed my perspective in my professional life, because when there was a problem, I was, by nature, I like to solve problems. I really enjoy that. So I would always
your values.
sleeves up, right?
Yeah.
And I would dig in and I would try to get into the problem. And really, now when a problem comes across, the first place I go to is okay, who is the best person that can solve this problem, that can lead this problem solving project? And I go and I find that person. And if that person isn't on our team, then we look to the outside. And I'll tell you what, we are faster, better, more nimble, by having that thought process than, oh, I'm not going to spend money on that. I'll just do it myself.
It's interesting that you and I see the world in such similar ways, and you're on an acquisition track and I'm on a building track. What we do here is we help people build and you help people exit.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Well, and build and be part of, I've got 7 guys on my team that have never worked for anybody in their entire life. Right. And, so how do you make it so that they can get energized and get up in the morning? Well, you got to think differently.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you said you use EOS. I think what's going to happen, Jeff, is you're probably going to find yourself invited back on the show. That's probably what's going to happen. I know we did it a few minutes ago, but if you don't mind, let's tell people how they can find you if they're interested in learning more, or maybe they are, the landscape contractor in the Southeast. Sorry. How do we find you?
Yeah, you can check our website out, KeyServ Co, KeyServCo.com, or Jeff at KeyServCo.com.
Yeah. And then if you look for him on LinkedIn, it's Jeff Domenick with that K on the end to make it fancy. I just got a C, but you got a Dominic with a K.
E-N-I-C-K.
Oh.
So it's even more, it's very frequently misspelled. So that's why it's just Jeff at KeyServCo.com. And
oh, I see. Yeah. And we'll link to it on the web, on the podcast anyways.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Jeff, thank you. This has been really good. I really appreciate it. And I'll bet you a bunch of people are hammering their steering wheels right now. Like, I got it now. I got to go do this thing.
Yeah, I hope so. And I really appreciate you having me on the show. I enjoyed it.
Yeah. Thanks, Jeff. We'll talk to you soon.
Yeah. Thanks, Dominic.
Bye-bye.